In high school, I remember someone asking if I was going to go to the upcoming KISS and Aerosmith co-headlining tour. Despite them being two of my absolute favorite bands, I wasn't interested. I had already seen them both separately, and when it came to KISS, I didn't want to see them unless it was all the original members. It wasn't until later that I found out that Peter Criss had rejoined for this particular tour, but that still probably wouldn't have swayed me. At the time, I figured it was just another tour. Maybe I'd catch it when they do another run. But I, and many others, didn't realize that this would be the only time the two bands would ever tour together. When it was announced in 2003, it generated a lot of buzz. Two of the biggest classic rock acts joining forces for a massive tour. Just made sense. Why hadn't this happened before? While both bands did play a show in 1974, a full trek had never happened, even though many wanted it. Members of both bands felt that a combined tour would generate a lot of profits, and their paths had crossed before, with Joe Perry and Gene Simmons collaborating on a solo song at one point. The real deciding vote was that of Steven Tyler. While he's only spoken briefly on it, simply put, he's not a fan of KISS. In a 2012 interview, he said, "They've got a couple hits, but they're more comic book. You see them in their spackled faces, but it is different. A KISS lick, a Joe Perry lick, two different worlds. And sometimes, depending on the time of day, I get offended by comparisons." Things were already tense between the two camps, but while they were willing to work together for the sake of the fans and the money, certain conditions had to be met. For starters, Aerosmith refused to go on tour unless KISS had at least 3 original members. By this time, Peter and Ace were both out, and Gene and Paul didn't really want them back in the fold. If you're unfamiliar with their opinions of each other, check out each member's autobiography for some great jabs, barbs, and flat-out insults. While they would have preferred Ace, he wasn't up to the task, and they instead had to go chasing after Peter. While he agreed to do the tour, he would later claim he was tricked into it, and received far less money than promised for his participation. Aerosmith then added that they would not go on first, feeling that they had more clout as they had all their original members and a more recent studio album with another studio album on the way. On top of all of this, Steven Tyler refused to do any press for the tour, which just made things really awkward from a public perspective. It also didn't help that both bands had separate names for the tour. KISS called it the World Domination Tour, and Aerosmith called it the Raucous Maximus Tour. They decided to tour from August to December of 2003, with the first half of shows hitting outdoor arenas and the second heading indoors. Joe Perry would extend an olive branch playing Strutter and borrowed boots from Paul Stanley at one of the performances. Paul Stanley would go over the top, more so than usual, with his stage banter and mannerisms, to match, or some have theorized, mock, those of Steven Tyler. Even within KISS, things were tense, with Criss often arguing with Tommy Thayer and reminding him multiple times that he was, at least to Peter Criss, someone who used to get him food, and nothing more. Peter Criss also complained that he could rarely see his kit due to all the smoke from all the pyro. Eventually, he was given fans to blow away the smoke, but they were from Aerosmith's road crew, not his own. Criss would also insult Aerosmith's drummer Joey Kramer, but take this all with a grain of salt, as Criss is said to be a notorious complainer by both Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Eric Singer, Criss's replacement, came to a show and would later admit that he was more excited to see Aerosmith. Paul Stanley would say later that he didn't care going on first. However, he did take a small sense of joy in seeing fans leaving before Aerosmith would go on. Despite all of this, the tour was a huge success, grossing close to $64 million. And since then, both sides have traded words in roundabout ways, never directly calling each other out, but still not being very kind. Of course, the bands have not toured together since. I find co-headlining tours really interesting. They always seem to end early or result in countless crazy stories. Now that tours are starting up again, it'll be interesting to see who joins forces in the future and what new rock feuds will come to light as a result. If you'd like more information on this tour, you'll find 2 links below where I got most of the information for this particular video. The content on this channel is made possible from viewers like you. Help the channel grow by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.